Welcome to episode 2 of the Undoing podcast. This week we're talking about vulnerability, so come get some.
Hi, everybody. This is Janelle. I'm here with Brendan and David.
Hey.
Alex is out of commission tonight. She's not feeling well.
She's having a disagreement with her pancreas.
I thought you were going to say with you, with her husband.
No, she and I are on the same page. Her pancreas is not.
I thought you were going to say she and I are on the same pancreas.
No, that'd be nice because mine works, but...
Yes. Well, hopefully she'll be back with us next time. So tonight, first let's talk about how's everybody doing? How's everyone's week? Brendan, how was your week? You had a good weekend? I wasn't here.
Yeah, that's right.
I was out of town. Brendan was with the boys.
Yeah, I stayed with the boys. Janelle went to a wedding yesterday. Was it yesterday?
Yeah, I had a family
It was
wedding.
a nice weekend.
And I found that me and my family, all of my family members are very misbehaved wedding guests. We were drawing on the name cards. It was really
Wedding
fun.
crashers.
Yeah, I was drawing dirty
Family
pictures
edition.
on my mom's and leaving them in front of her. And she was like, she tried to look at it and then had to find her glasses because she couldn't see what I had drawn. It was really funny. But that was during like prayer, the wedding prayer. So I couldn't stop
Your
laughing.
poor
I was
mom.
like dying under the table. I was about to just like burst out. Anyways, David, how about you? How was your weekend?
I spent most of the week at the hospital with Alex, but that was cool. My work is cool.
That's good.
I just worked from there and hung out with her. So whatever, it's like a little treat.
Hope she can come home soon.
Yeah, me too.
Yes, that would be good. Very good. Okay. Tonight I want to talk about hypocrisy in the church and religion.
You're a hypocrite.
Yeah, we all are, aren't we?
So happy.
That's the saying of the day. It seems like everybody says
What is?
that all Christians are hypocrites.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Personal experiences. Have you guys had personal experiences of people accusing you of being a hypocrite?
Personal accusation.
Yeah. Directly at you or at your church?
Yeah, probably at church, but I don't know.
I think I've only got general, like...
Christians are hypocrites,
Christians
and
are
that's it.
Right.
I don't think I've gotten
Called out
personally-
on anything.
I don't think people are like bold enough. Well, not many people are bold enough to like say it to your face. Some are, but
Yeah.
I think it's more rare.
And more on social
But I
media.
think also at
Yeah,
the same time,
social media, anybody says
when
anything.
you have a personal relationship with somebody, it's hard for them to just straight up say you're a hypocrite and leave it
Right.
at that.
Right.
It's usually like, oh, why do you do this when you say
Right.
this is whatever.
Right. I feel like I think I can say that I was a hypocrite for sure. But I mean, like, if you define like the definition of hypocrite, it's telling people not to do something and then you do it, right?
I don't know
Or-
what the Oxford version is,
Should
but
we find
that's
out?
my brain version.
You can. Yeah, go ahead. But I mean, like, that's what I always thought it was, that telling people not to do something and then you're doing it. But I think also it might be giving the illusion that you've never done something and then telling people not to do it. So kind of like, it would be easy for me to say, this is just an example. It would be easy for me to say, my parents are hypocrites because they told me not to do drugs, but they did drugs when they were teenagers.
But is that hypocrisy as much?
That's what I'm asking.
Well, like hypocrisy, I think is more like ongoing, right? Because that was previous experience for
Right.
them that they're trying to pass that on to you.
Right,
It's-
I would
it's
agree
a little
with
bit
that.
different than
Yeah. Okay. So
I would agree with
anyway.
that. I'm wondering if there's like a perception in the secular world that Christians are hypocrites because they tell you not to do certain things when they've done that in the past.
I don't think it's not so, well, maybe, but hypocrisy is, well,
Did you look up
here's
the definition?
A person who puts on a false appearance of virtue or religion, or a person who acts in contradiction to his or her stated beliefs or feelings. So I think the definition is really more of acting in it So I don't think it has to do with
Like
something you've
currently
done
acting.
before.
Right.
It's what you're acting like.
However, that first definition is kind of what I want to talk about, really, because my topic of the day, of the week, and will be in Quarter Life tonight as well, is vulnerability. And I think hypocrisy in the church and lack of vulnerability in Christians go hand in hand. The perception of hypocrisy and lack of Christians' vulnerability.
Yeah, I mean, because I think most people, like outside of the church, look at church people as fake and not real because they see them acting one way, and then but they don't hear or see the flaws as much.
Do you think that's because Christians aren't as specific when they're talking about their downfalls,
Yeah.
the things that they struggle with?
Yeah, I mean, we like to be vague.
We like to downplay it too, like mine's not as bad as somebody else's was.
I've seen a trend.
Sometimes.
Well, I won't say that. I have seen a trend that people will say that they have struggled with something when, in all honesty, they still currently struggle with it, but they're just not being honest with themselves. So it's easy for them to put on a front saying, I used to struggle with this.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's definitely easier to talk about it after the fact than in the middle of it, for sure. So, yeah, I guess if you're asked to give a testimony, right, and you're standing in front of everybody and you're like, well, God healed me from this, but, it doesn't mean it's not coming back either.
Right.
But I wonder why it is easier.
So would it be easier to say, God is healing me of this?
Right, like why is it easier for us to say it after
Past
than
tense.
during? I mean,
Right.
I get why it is, but
Because it makes
really
you
why?
It's more
feel
raw
vulnerable.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I think we like to think we have it all together, and especially like for Christians, we think that, in order for us to help someone else, we have to say that we've conquered this. So
Right.
I've conquered it. God set me free from it, so now I can help you do it. But what happens when you struggle again with,
Right.
It's not like you're perfect all of a sudden and you're never going to have any issues or struggles again.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's true. I think it's also a little bit dangerous. So,
How so?
because, well, okay, for me personally, I feel like if you are going to put yourself out there and be vulnerable for the sake of somebody else's salvation, then it's worth it. And that's the way I view vulnerability. So for me to talk about something that I struggle with, whether I have struggled with it in the past, and I think that it could be an issue for me in the future or presently, then I think it's healthier and more helpful to talk about it and be specific. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. So why don't we? Like, what are reasons why
Fear?
we talk ourselves out of doing that? Fear.
I think fear. I think fear of judgment and rejection, and which to me that's really sad, because if you're in a church, it's a place where you're supposed to not have to be afraid, where you should be accepted no matter what. I think our church does a great job of that, but I know Christians in general in America have a hard time accepting people as they are, where they're at. So yeah,
Without trying to fix them on the spot.
But I think, if Christians, right, I think if Christians if they're afraid of it, how much more afraid is somebody who isn't a Christian?
Right.
But I don't know. I mean, I've seen a lot of unsaved people be very open with their issues. And I find it refreshing. Actually, like Humans of New York,
Mm-hmm.
they put themselves out there.
Yeah.
Just somebody's asking them a question, they put themselves out there. A lot of the stuff has been very intense.
I wonder how many.
And that, Humans of New York it's been very touching for me. Like, it's very moving. It's been like, there's even things that I've read on there that's just been healing for me.
Yeah.
Totally
I wonder,
not
though,
religious.
Like how many he attempts to talk to that don't end up being like that. Like you know.
I think he must have, I need to like write to him and be like, hey man, what kind of questions? His name is Brandon Stanton. He actually grew up in my hometown. The guy that started Humans of New York, but he must have some really killer questions that get people talking.
Mm-hmm.
He's probably like Ray, my brother-in-law. He's so good at talking to people and just like asking questions. I was watching him at the at my family's wedding last night, and he hadn't met a lot of the family members yet, and so he was meeting people, and just right away, the questions he would ask them. One of my cousins is an artist, and so we all started talking about like our artwork and things that we do, and like different things that we're just like testing out and trying, and just the questions that he would ask, or like I wouldn't have thought to ask that, and he actually did. Send me a list of questions, like life coaching questions. And sometimes I just like read through them, which is a lot of people like on my Facebook. Like if you go to my Facebook page, most of my statuses from the past couple months have been just questions that I've been asking. Yeah. They're life coaching questions.
Yeah. And people like answering them too.
And the more I write them, the more I write questions, the more I think of questions that I want to know the answer to from people. And I know Facebook is public, and a lot of people aren't going to like divulge a ton of information, personal information on social media, which
Be surprised.
some people do, some people don't. There's a lot of people I would want to hear from and would want to hear their answers to those questions, but they wouldn't answer them on there. Some of them have private messaged me answering them. I wanted to answer, but I didn't want everybody to see it.
Yeah.
It's cute.
It's funny how different people are. Some people like.
So I'll ask you guys, in what scenario, with all of those topics that that we're talking about right now, in what scenario do you feel most vulnerable that you don't want to put yourself out there? And I know, David, I know you answered before, but I would love to hear your answer again on here. I'm sure everybody else would.
Go ahead.
Well, I think what we were talking about, like, when do you feel most vulnerable, as in like you can't hide behind your mask kind of thing, or what exactly are you?
Yeah, where you feel like you... I could give you guys my example first. Like, I can answer first if you want me to.
Yeah, that might help.
All right, so when we're talking about, like, I think when I feel most vulnerable is when I am writing, like a blog post, or for like speaking, like for like at youth camp, or like anytime I've spoken for like even tonight going into Quarter Life, and I'm going to be speaking tonight in Quarter Life. Anytime I'm going into something like that where I'm going to be leading the way for other people to open up, actually makes me feel pretty nervous. And because I know that I'm not going to hold anything back. And it's like, okay, my guts are about to be like fall out.
Yeah. Well,
but I want it. I want that. Like, I know that it's because I know how I just... Okay, so like in January when we posted on when I wrote for the Liminalists, it was a pretty personal blog, and I had written it, and we actually sat on it for a few months after I had written it, so that we could just think about like when the right time would be to post it, because it was very raw and open. And when I posted that, I got so many messages from people telling me the same thing, what they had been through. And I think I would like to compile a book sometime of like the letters, like the personal letters that I've gotten, just make them anonymous, of what people have been through and what they'd been hiding and what they hadn't been saying. And I think it was really, when I knew that blog was going to be posted, I was a little nervous, and I had to go through a lot of processing before it was posted and after I had written it. And it was, I don't really know how to explain it, except for that it was very open, and I knew it was going to be good for other people. So it made my own feelings about my own stuff very, very minimal, like not as important to me, because I'm like, especially after I read the messages that I was getting, I was just like, thank God that I don't care what people think about me. And I'm not like trying to brag or make myself sound like whatever, like I can do it, you can do it too. But it's just, I think that Christians would just be more productive if they would just kind of
Well,
let go of all their fear.
yeah.
Easier said than done. But yeah.
Yeah, that would be great. But, like what you were saying about when you prepare to speak and that's when you feel really vulnerable, I think that's part of the responsibility that comes with being like a leader, and like pastors carry that responsibility, and anybody who's leading a group of people and speaking to a group of people, because at least my experience, and pretty much anybody I've talked to have the same experience of when they have a message to share with people, as they're like getting ready for it, they're usually going through the message.
Oh, yeah.
Like you have to
Like
live
this
it
week.
out, kind of. Yeah. And that's happened to me anytime I have something to share the week before or the week after, right? Like I'm living out what I'm about to share. So it really kind of sucks because I don't know. Like I don't know. I guess it makes me respect pastors a lot too, who can be vulnerable and who can really like speak like some pretty tough subjects, because I always think about if I'm hearing a message from somebody and it's really like hitting home and really kind of hardcore, I just think like, man, did they go through this week to be able to present this message in that way? And that's a big responsibility. I mean,
You find that inspiring?
I guess. I
So
think
like
that's inspiring.
you seeing them speak and pour their heart out, does that make you want to do the same thing? Pour your heart out to people?
I think so. But I also know what goes behind it because I've been around it enough and I've experienced it a little bit myself, to where I know that it's not just all like, oh, well, how great they are because they just did a really impactful message, or, even if it's a song, or like music is the same thing. I think people who write really incredible music and, you hear a song, it's like, wow, that was really powerful. I think like, where did they get that from? What have they been going through that came out of that, So I guess that's where I'll go ahead and answer where I feel most vulnerable, I think is in like music, like when I'm leading worship and I don't have like the words to the songs aren't good enough anymore. Like I can't, it's hard to explain, but like when I really like let go and it's not about really anything but just, I guess, me and God. Like there's a point in leading worship where you just have to, you don't have to, but if you do, it's great. Like you can just let go and let God just kind of take control, but it's really scary because you don't know like what's gonna come out of it, I guess. But I don't know, it might not make any sense. I don't know if it's relatable to how relatable that is, but I think it has to do with like if people who are speaking too, like anytime you put yourself in front of a group of people with your gift, talent, your worship, whatever. I mean, your gifts and talents should be an act of worship anyway. So you're putting it in front of people as an act of worship. I think that's a pretty vulnerable place if you're doing it.
Do you guys feel like
genuinely.
vulnerability and like feeling unsafe are the same thing?
I think vulnerability might make you feel
But
unsafe.
you can feel
Sometimes
unvulnerable.
I've felt vulnerable and
Completely safe.
safe.
Right.
Yeah.
Because it depends on the environment and everything, right? Because
Right.
if you are comfortable with the people you're being vulnerable with, then you can still feel safe. So I don't know that, like you can be vulnerable without feeling safe, but you can't feel safe. I don't know. There's some correlation there, but not
It's not like black
complete,
and white.
Right.
kind
complete
of.
correlation.
Yeah. No, I mean, and I don't think like when I feel vulnerable when I'm singing, I don't feel scared. It's not letting me scare. Like I don't feel unsafe, because it actually feels really right. Like that's the weird thing about it is, and I think that's when you know that it's genuine and that you're doing
Yeah.
something real. Is you're completely out of control and you should be freaking out completely, but you're not. You have peace and you just know you're where you're supposed to be and you're doing what you're supposed to be doing. But at the same time, you have no idea what you're doing. And it's kind of like this weird thing and it's, you're opening yourself up. So I don't know, I think like artists deal with that a lot because, any piece of art, you're putting yourself out there. You're putting something that's in your head or in your heart on paper or online or whatever. I think that can be pretty vulnerable.
That could be unsafe as well.
Well, yeah.
It's more risky putting something
Your team
online.
has to be ready.
You never know who's going to be coming at you.
Well, your team has to be ready,
Yeah.
in your case, like to follow you wherever.
Oh, you mean worship?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, then everybody's vulnerable.
But if they're not
great.
if they're not expecting it, right, then you're kind of it's kind of hard for them to follow if they're not
Yeah,
ready to follow that.
right. And I can't, like, that doesn't happen all the time. There's been probably not, like, maybe a handful of times where I feel like that's actually happened, but that's what I feel like, for me, that's what I aim for, like, as a worship leader and somebody who is giving something of myself to offer to God and for other people, because, just like art or writing or music, like it can impact people. Your songs can impact people. Your messages can impact people. So you're not doing it for yourself completely. You're not just doing it for God. You're doing it kind of for everything and for others as well. But you don't always know how people are going to respond. You don't always know everything. So that's where you have to let go and just see what happens. But it's kind of the same thing with this podcast.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I guess so. Do we get comments on?
I mean, we just started.
No, I know, but can we get comments on? Like,
yeah, you can
people
comment
on it?
SoundCloud, and you can comment.
Yeah, I
You
mean,
can
we might want to
make
eventually
general ratings
make
and
like a
reviews.
Facebook page or something,
Yeah.
so we can have conversations with people, because that would be really cool to hear back from people. But
Yeah, get all of their lovely feedback.
well, let's wait. That's why
Let's wait until we feel like feeling vulnerable.
Yeah.
Putting ourselves out there a little
I
bit.
think it's too late. We're already out there. We jumped in. Just jump
Yeah,
in.
We had
I
like
don't
30,
know. I think
30
it's
listens, so I mean, like, we're getting out there.
30. Whoa.
37 was the last
I
saw.
just wish it was a little more popular to get real. I don't see it. I think I get disappointed because I don't see it as much. I have a lot of friends on Facebook, especially, who make posts about God that just do absolutely no good. Like,
Would you say that was like almost like infantile Christianity, though?
possibly. Unfortunately, these people have been Christians their whole lives.
Right.
But
Right. It just doesn't seem like there's a lot of depth into the
it's-
words and the
it's
thoughts.
like, well, it's kind of like I get a lot of like, oh, this year has been so hard, but God is so good. It's been a struggle. It's been painful, that kind of stuff. But God comes through. And it's like, why? Can you please give me some, if you don't want to post about it, don't post about it. But why are you posting about it? If you're not really going to give me any details, like, it would just be so much more, more beneficial for me. I would love to hear, like, please tell me why. Like, what have you gone through? Like, I want to know what you've gone through.
We
Like,
need
maybe
fuel for our gossip.
Yeah, no, I want. I mean, like, I like to know people's stories, and I find it inspirational when people own their story and they share it with other people. And I get frustrated when I know there's a story there that they're holding back.
Yeah, I just think there's a.
And I know there's
right
a time, there's a
place
safe
for it.
place, but I feel like,
I don't think social.
Yeah,
How
media
can-
Facebook's not the place. for
how
it.
can
At least publicly.
Christians do a better job?
Well, I
of-
think that has to happen in your community and fellowship. So whether it's a Bible study, small group, something in your church, which obviously we can't be a part of everybody's. We don't know what they're doing or a part of. But I hope that's what we do in
There's
our
just,
group. You know?
I mean, but there's so many things online, like in the news, on TV. Reality shows are the most popular, most watched television in
It's fake.
the world. Right. So why can't we do something real? People like it. People
Yeah.
want to see that.
But they want real, but like over dramatic real. Because if it's like real, like, oh, I'm going to the grocery store today, then it's like boring. So it has to be like real, but like fun real, and not like oh, you're sitting in the office for 8 hours today. That's cool. I guess I'll check it
Well,
later.
no, I mean, I
I
think
don't know. I mean, like those I am second. Is it
Yeah.
I am second videos?
Yeah.
those are great.
I am second. Humans of New York.
There's some good examples
There's
of-
humans of everything now. Like there's so
Yeah.
many people that have copied it, and
No, I think there's some really good examples of ways you can do that. I am second is a really great
So
I
my
think
id-
example of that.
I have an idea
But-
for it.
Okay.
Like I want to have like a confession box at church, but that's like reverse confession box. You know,
Wait,
like
what?
like people go into the confession box and someone in the church is on the other side confessing their
Oh,
stuff.
like
Kind of
we
like
read
in
that
Blue
the
Like
book.
Jazz.
Blue
Like they
Like
go to that
Jazz,
college.
the
They go
book,
to, yeah. Not even just at church. I mean, you could have just a confession box elsewhere, like
What's
in a
the
park.
guy's name?
in-
The author?
Donald
Blue-
Miller.
Donald Miller. Blue
Wait,
Like
how does
Jazz.
this work? Like,
Okay, so they built a confession box and went to like a notoriously secular college, the most notoriously secular college, Reed University, I think it is, right? In Oregon or Washington or wherever
I can't
up there.
remember.
the-
I can't remember the name.
yeah, those Northwestern
In the Northwest.
liberals.
So-
liberals, those
So
crazies.
yeah, the most liberal, the most secular,
Oh,
and they did it on a night where it was like some kind of student night where there were no faculty allowed on campus, no security was allowed, and just like anything goes. So
That
it's
sounds dangerous.
partying, drinking, drugs, like all kinds of stuff. So the only Christians on campus decided to build a confession box and put it in the middle of campus so that as all the students are walking around partying and stuff, they see this confession box and they go in there, and instead of the student confessing, there's a Christian on the other side saying, you know, like not saying like this is my sin, this is what I've done, this is how I've sinned, but just saying like the Christians have done a really poor job of loving you guys and we're sorry, and giving hugs.
No, I mean,
Hugs go a long way.
hugs. Free hugs.
So, Gabe, one of our unpaid interns, is chanting. They're cheering.
He's the hug master.
The most physically affectionate person on the planet.
He's sitting
proud.
uncomfortably close to me right now. Oh my gosh. He's touching me.
Anyways, I just think
know.
that would be fun.
I think that goes a
And-
long way. I mean, I think there's definitely some like some what do you call it? Things that we need to do as the church to undo some of the last
Yeah.
however many hundreds of years of bad stuff, like not bad stuff, but like that example you said is a good example of us kind of like undoing some of the perceptions of church, but they're legitimate perceptions. Like I get
Right.
why people think that. So
Well, I mean, I think a lot of people, when they hear the word vulnerability, they think of us sitting around a table airing our dirty laundry, and I don't think that's necessarily true, because you can give information without giving such details. You know, you don't have to say, you know, every little dirty detail of your past or present,
right.
or what you plan to do in the future. but I get a little
But you also can't
tired and
be too
disappointed
vague.
of the vague,
So
not being
where's
specific.
the middle? I mean, like, what do you do?
I mean, it's easy for me to say as a Christian that it would need to be spirit led, you know, because there's certain
Where's the
times where
sound?
sorry, spirit led. Wow. The Holy Spirit does move. Okay, so
Yeah, but a non-Christian would hear that and be like, "What the heck are you?"
no,
talking
they understand
about?
the Holy Spirit.
Spirit-led.
Yeah, a lot of them do.
I don't think non-Christians know it. I don't think Christians know what.
Comment, please.
Most people don't use spirit-led in their daily
Normal
conversations.
vernacular.
I don't either.
I know. I'm shocked.
That's why I'm saying, like, I think it does. I think, you know, when there's a moment where you need to be open and you need to talk about stuff. Most of the time it is in smaller groups. It's usually not on social media. Sometimes it is. I think if you're going to read news stories and articles and different things from all kinds of people in all walks of life that say everything. I mean, like, if you look at some of I'm trying to think of some of the blogs that have different writers. What's Babel? Is Babel?
Babylon B.
No, Babel.
Oh,
It's not
That's
Christian.
satire.
I think it's actually owned by Disney. But it's
oh Lord.
it's a blog that has a bunch of different people that write articles for it. Like almost like an online magazine, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, a lot of them are like
So
that
online
now.
magazine. So anyways, people write articles and they're putting
Newspapers.
all kinds of stuff out there about their families,
Right.
about there was one I read it wasn't on Babbel. Which one was it that was talking about moms who admitted that they made a mistake having children and didn't want their kids. They wish they could go back and change it. That's a pretty controversial subject.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
That would be
but
pretty
they
hard to
talk about
admit.
this stuff, and there was like several of them telling their stories, like different quotes from these moms that talked about it, and oh my gosh, the comments on it were just like awful. And I felt bad because I was like, I mean, these women, what they're saying, you know, maybe it sounds awful, but they're being honest, you know, like they're really
We
pouring
shouldn't
their...
attack honesty. We should attack ideas. Is that what you're saying?
Do people attack honesty? I feel like people appreciate honesty more.
I
Most
didn't agree
people,
with
right?
a lot of what was said on that specific article, but I was looking more at these women who I'm seeing it as they had no support. Most of them, their husbands left them with the kids. They were working moms with having to take care of everything themselves. And it wasn't so much that they regretted having kids, but they were just tired and they needed support and they didn't have it, you know? So what the things that came out of their mouth when they're talking about their children, it was honest, but it's almost kind of like they were just a victim of their circumstance. And so
Right.
that's, you know, how they felt about it.
Yeah. Well, I think
And I think it's okay for them to feel that way. And I think they had, you know, that's pretty ballsy to be able to say it, especially on a public article like that.
Yeah, I think like we Christians for a long time have we kind of like just completely close. As soon as we hear something that's like that, we just close out completely because it's like, oh, we disagree with that, so we're not even gonna kind of give them a chance, maybe. So it's like, I think if we could, one thing that we could change. And I see, you know, some people do this, and I'm not saying nobody does this, but like if we as Jesus followers will listen to people and like, especially if they disagree with us or do something, like maybe admit to something, you know, that might be horrible or might be something that whatever, like I think like having the grace and mercy rather than just completely shutting them out because we need to separate ourselves, you know, we got to
Right.
separate ourselves from culture and society. So we're not even going to give them a second chance. So like,
I think another solution would be also to really, I mean, once you talk about it, like even just listening to us talk here, when you're talking with someone and they're maybe confessing to you something that they've done, maybe they are, I don't know, addicted to pornography, let's just say. Okay, so they're saying that they are really struggling and they are realizing that it's a problem for them. Okay, so instead of me saying, oh, you know, God's there for you and I'll pray with you and things like that, but just blatantly saying, I struggle with that too. I struggle with pornography as well. And, you know, currently I'm doing okay, but sometimes it comes up. And,
Right.
you know, this is what I have to do. And I have to know God is stronger than addiction and really like, you know, working through that and even encouraging them with, I don't know how they do with like sex rehabs and things like that, but because this is just an example, but you know what I'm saying.
But what if you don't even relate with
Right.
that?
I mean, if you don't, then you don't. But I think a lot
What
of
do you
times
say to them in that case? Like
if you don't
obviously-
relate,
right?
I don't really relate with that.
wow.
It's pretty simple.
Well, that sucks
I don't
for
actually.
you.
I don't.
Well,
I've
that's
never.
why people end up just saying, "Oh, well, God's he's got a plan. I'll pray for you." That's the only thing they go to because they don't relate. Maybe they do relate and they don't want to admit it, but I think there are times when you just don't relate and you can't fake it.
Right.
I think what I'm getting at is like at that point you have to plug them in with somebody.
Oh, sure. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
you can. Yeah, you
Refer
can
them to
refer to
somebody
somebody who does struggle with pornography. Hey, I know this guy who kind of does.
Hey, you can do it
This
together.
girl does too.
Um,
Take your pick. Most people do. Anyways, no, but
somebody more, you know, that's probably been through it that you know, or somebody that's, you know, in counseling or a counselor, right? That can,
right.
that you can kind of pass that along and say, listen, I trust this person. You can trust this person. I'll go with you to talk.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
leaving it at I'll pray for you and God's got your back is true, but that still doesn't remove the intimidation from somebody.
Right. It also lacks empathy, I think. So,
Right.
like, if you just have more empathy for people, and because by saying, "Oh wow, I can't relate. I haven't struggled with that issue personally, but I know people who have,
And I'm here
I
for you."
know how difficult it must be. I can help you. I'd love to help you, introduce you to these people. Blah blah blah. That's showing a little bit more like empathy. So I think like empathy is a big one where the easy way is just to say, "Oh, I'll pray for you and God's got your back."
Yeah.
But it takes
I
a
think
lot more
too,
to have empathy.
for example, giving a lot of examples tonight. For example, when I like made it public that I had an affair, it became like I was a safe person to reveal that to.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's the same thing with any subject, anything that people struggle with. When a Christian comes out with information like that, it makes it a safe person.
Yeah.
So I think probably with, the secular world viewing Christians as hypocrites, I think they see that a little too much, that we're hiding those things, that we're not coming out with it honestly, and I don't give any details about anything, but it still makes me, I'm viewed more as a safe person on that subject.
Right.
So it would be the same thing with drug addiction and pornography, and any kind of, you can come up with all kinds of freaky stuff.
Well,
and become
yeah.
a safe person to that person that is also struggling with it.
Unless you're in leadership at the church, at that point, then
Then you just get fired. No, I'm
then
just kidding.
then you have moral failure and
Moral failure.
you're blacklisted.
But not forever. Not forever. It doesn't have to be that way. I know it is a lot of times, but I know like so many people. Okay, this is like for Silence, the movie, like the book. I just read the book and watched the movie this year.
Yeah.
I think did we talk about Silence on the last podcast too? I'm sorry, it's my favorite.
I don't think
I
so.
don't remember.
It's
I was in another conversation.
It's just because like the guy's a priest, and when he, spoiler alert, when he apostatizes, he lives out his life no longer as a priest. He's actually lives out his life way more like in isolation and seclusion from other Christians, but he still has his faith. Like he dies with his faith because it's true. Now it's not just a religious facade.
Right.
And I think it's the same thing.
More real.
Not that, I don't know. It's kind of a different subject, but.
Well, it's all about.
So even if you
having
have a
something real
moral
or something
failure, if
fake.
you're a pastor of a church and you have a moral failure and you are fired from your position or you resign or however they want to spin it, there's redemption. I think there's a lot of restitution too. I've seen it happen so many times.
If you admit to moral failure as a pastor, should you be fired?
Not necessarily, I don't think. It depends on where your heart's at.
I think you should take a break.
I think if
And
you
focus
have a moral failure
your
as a
life.
pastor, there's a lot more going on than what
Yeah.
you committed,
You need some time to, like.
If you're
deal
a
with some of
pastor
your
and
stuff.
you have an affair with someone and you aren't sorry for it, like you're not you don't feel
Well,
like you've
yeah.
sinned, and you're just going to go ahead and, move on with your mistress, then maybe there's an issue there. They shouldn't be a pastor. But I think if somebody has a moral failure, there's more going on. The moral failure is a side effect
Right. Well,
that needs to be
I think
dealt-
the reason
dealt with.
why non-Christians have such an issue with Christians and the hypocrisy thing is because everybody knows everybody has issues. Everybody knows nobody's perfect and struggles with stuff. So they think it's ridiculous for Christians to prance around
acting like nothing.
acting like nothing's wrong because we all know, and I think even nowadays we know too much about each other.
I definitely do because I used to do everybody's background checks. So I know all the dirt on people. I love it though because then I mean
Then I have a conversation point with
No,
them.
the thing is
Wow.
it's not that I have a conversation point with them. It's just I don't know, like they're not faking anything. It's just I don't know. I don't want to call people out. 'Cause
No, that's not a good idea. No, but I think
you just see people more
Hey,
like
how's your
real.
probation officer?
Yeah, how's that probation going? So you have 7 traffic violations.
No, but
Maybe you should take some
it's
driver's
kind of
ed.
fun to like imagine what it would be like. Like, what would church be like if everything was kind of out in the open? Maybe
Right.
not all the nitty gritty details, but like the general, like everybody knows.
Right. That's why I suggest, like, I wonder how many more
struggles
people would
and-
go to a confession if the priest as well is confessing to them.
See, I don't know
Just-
Yeah.
on a macro scale that it's necessarily beneficial as much as like on a micro scale. Like I'd rather
what I mean. Yeah.
I'd rather have, the close friends that we share everything together and we're cool.
Yeah.
And on the macro scale, I'm like, okay, I have issues and maybe this is my issue. And if you need somebody to talk to or somebody to relate to you and your issue, if you're in the same boat, then I'm here for you kind of thing. But to constantly put out your
Yeah.
stuff.
No, that's what I mean. Like, it's
Right.
not about sitting around and airing your dirty laundry all the time.
Right.
But it's about like living in honesty and not being afraid to be open with someone when they do come to you and
Yeah.
ask
Right.
about things or say certain things or whatever. But there's just I see it's like way too often, and I think it's been damaging for me in my faith and in my like spiritual life that people haven't been completely open with me, people close to me, not being completely open about things. And I mean, there was like an instance at youth camp this summer when I was sharing at girls' night that I had written something and I had sent it to my sisters to read and like give me feedback on. And one of them said, if I had somebody when I was a teenager be that honest with me, I would have never forgotten it. It would have been life-changing. And I think that's true for me too. If I wish I had had somebody who was blatantly honest in the right forum, like in a safe
Right.
environment.
Yeah.
If they had been that open with me, then it would have been life-changing, I think.
I guess I
Never
should say
forgot it.
something instead of just nodding.
Oh,
You can't hear my nod.
Yes, agreement.
Yes.
Yeah. No, I think it's important to say too that it is in the right environment and the right people, because you can cause more hurt to yourself and other people if you just go blabbering everything everywhere.
You have to be ready. They have to be ready. And it's
Yeah.
But it's I think the whole
being
point
aware.
is being willing
And
to be vulnerable. Like, you got to be willing. So if someone comes to you with an issue and you can relate to them, you have to be willing to be vulnerable and say, yeah, I'm dealing with that now. And I think the truth is I don't know that we could ever really say I'm past that. Because, I
No,
might be
yeah.
farther along, or I might have gone through that. But I've learned, like, I used to, I really just this year stopped saying, like, oh, that's something I struggled with. It's like, no, I still struggle with it, because I know that at any time, any of things that I struggled with in the past can come right back up. Like, they can. I mean, anything can, I think, resurface if you let it.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I think you just have to be honest with yourself and
Mm-hmm.
know, like, I'm human, and I know that I make mistakes. And I think for me, the key is figuring out what causes them to resurface, and what can I do. How can I be in a good situation to where if they ever do resurface, I can recognize them for what they are and not let them be chained, like,
Right.
bind me again.
Right.
Because it's not the struggles that's the problem. It's not like having a struggle is a sin. It's when you, like,
you let it take you away from God. Basically.
yeah,
It
you
separates
let it become your God, and it separates. Yeah, and it ends up binding you up and becoming this dividing thing
Needs some
between you
fiber.
and God, and then it becomes your God. Fiber. Nice. Oh man. Well,
Okay.
that's a good one. Well, on that note, so what do you suggest are some real things that we can do to help be more vulnerable?
When and where?
Well, I think when you're, I don't know, I'm maybe just more aware of it because it irritates me when people are on like social media posting those little things of.
We might need a break from social media.
Yeah, I need to just get off social media.
It's ruining our lives.
I don't know. It's kind of like they make it look like everything is so perfect with all their pictures, and then are like, "Oh, this has been so hard." I'm like, "Really?" Because it looks friggin' easy. So what are you? Where's the poop?
Where's the poop?
Where's the poop? Where's the poop, Karen?
We have that book,
Man,
and
that should
most
have
of
been the name of our podcast.
we have
Where's
that
the
book,
poop?
and
Where's
most of
the
the
poop?
flaps are gone, so
Yeah.
the poop is all out there just for everyone to see.
Yeah. So I mean,
Oh, you know what?
So I
Instead of
think-
saying I am church, we should say I am poop from now on.
Gotta have some self-esteem, though.
I am poop.
it's just been so.
kidding,
There's
sorry.
just so many times where I know of people who have gone into church and just been like, man, I am really struggling, and this is what I'm struggling with, and I don't, you know,
You
I
don't
don't
feel like
see
anybody else is.
I
You
don't,
can't
and
relate.
nobody else is, and then
Yeah,
and then like
everybody's,
that one
"Yeah,
person that
happy, happy."
finally speaks up and is just like
Mhm.
honest.
But at the same time, if you walk into a church and you feel like nobody relates to you, but you didn't put yourself out there, then
Right, sometimes it's just
who's-
perception.
Who's responsible for that?
Well, vulnerability
You are.
goes both ways,
Oh, for sure.
right? I mean,
Yeah, I would agree with that. However, I think that as Christians, we
We
have a
should be setting the
responsibility because God put himself out there. He became vulnerable in Jesus, and
mhm.
he's our example.
Preach, woman.
No, women can't preach.
Oh, on that note,
another
that's a
topic for
different
another night.
podcast.
Oh my God. Women can preach.
Yes, they can.
Disclaimer.
Fine, I'll take it back.
We'll have Pastor Pete with us next week to discuss this topic.
Yeah.
That's good
Anyways.
stuff.
Yeah. You didn't say much, David.
I know you guys
Quiet.
pretty much just like took over.
I'm sorry. Do you want to answer more questions?
You never even shared your thingy.
My thingy.
Your vulnerability.
Yeah.
But we're out
you
of
didn't answer
time,
that question
so
of
you
what
gotta do
makes
it
you
quick.
feel most vulnerable.
I was just like, and I think for me, it's like when you're around people that really know you and really have seen your stuff, and you can't sit there and lie to them and say, no, this isn't going on. Right? You have to.
Right.
You're pretty much stuck at that point when they sit down with you and you're like, so what's going on with your life? Well, I'm good.
So
That's kind of
would-
forced
hey,
vulnerability
I have a
at that
question.
point.
I have a question then.
And I think God does that sometimes. I think he does. I don't know.
I-
Does he force vulnerability on you?
Okay,
at
maybe this is just
certain
my
points?
perception, but let me ask you this. Okay, it sometimes seems that men feel more vulnerable when they're asked direct questions, detailed, specific questions. Yeah,
As opposed to not.
as opposed to just okay. So if we're in a small group of people, close friends, and they're like, "Oh, hey, how you doing? What how's everything going with you?" Like, you know,
Right.
a serious question, not just shooting the breeze. Oh, everything's fine. Yeah, it's good. It's all good. Okay, well, are you still struggling with such and such?
Yeah, it depends on the relationship, I guess. That
Yeah, I don't know if you can paintbrush it. Just, I
Right.
mean, I think in general, women are definitely more open.
they're like, oh God, somebody else
talk.
listen to me, please.
You
than
feel like we
guys
have less
are
to lose?
altogether. But yeah, I think it does.
think- I think-
it depends on the relationship because there are certain relationships that it would be more comfortable for me to have a conversation like that with. But
I just
think
feel
in
like sometimes
general,
when
you
I
might be
ask
right.
when I ask my very direct questions, the guys tend to fidget a little more instead of answering them directly, and I don't know. Maybe women feel like they don't have as much to lose.
what do you mean?
Maybe. Like guys are more
There's a
in tune to their reputations
Yeah.
and their
Yeah, I think
personas
so.
that they don't want to put any chinks in their armor.
right. I think because
Pride.
I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah.
pride,
I think
and
guys
I think
struggle with pride maybe more than.
well, I mean, if I've
women.
sat in women's groups and overheard men's groups, not sat in them, but
Did you bring your mustache? that
but the
time?
women tend to be like, I mean, I make jokes all the time. They'll be like, "Are you coming to women's group?" And I'm like, "No, because this is how it goes." Okay. I just this week, and everybody starts crying, talking about their feelings, but
What's wrong with that?
nothing. I love it. And then in the men's groups, it's there's a lot of shaking their head and.
It was like, let's read a verse. All right,
yeah.
that sounds good. All right,
And there's not
moving
really.
on.
Where's the spice? I want the spices.
Oh, I think they can be productive.
Salt Bay.
Wow.
Oh.
No. I think
Well, he just did
it can
it.
still be productive for those things. For a time.
You think what?
I think it still can be productive. Some people, just being. I don't know.
Oh no,
I think
I'm not
that,
saying it's like useless because I think men speak a weird language where they don't say anything and they just kind of feel and look at each other and it's like they just feel, okay, you get me. All right. Meeting over. You leave.
A
and then you
well-placed
feel so
wink
much
goes
better.
a long way.
Yeah. So weird. I don't
Really?
get it. I know I'm a woman. I don't get it. But I mean, like, because women, you talk. And I mean, sometimes, you understand each other without actually having to say anything. But more often than not, women are more open and talkative about
I think guys, like, you almost have to be like in the mood that you want to talk about stuff because it's not like your default mood to be like, oh, let's talk about.
Yeah, and it's really awkward to just like come out of nowhere.
Especially
and be
jump
like,
into it,
Let's
yeah.
talk about our feelings. It usually comes actually it does kind of come out of nowhere, but it's not something that you try.
It takes 4 hours.
So it's
Several
seriously
beers.
though. No, but I think that's why like youth camp is so impactful to young people because it's a week long. You're in a room with guys. You're spending like 24/7 with this group of young people, and it doesn't really even take too long, but like by the first like second, third night or whatever, they're spilling their guts and they're like little babies. But it's because I think you just wait for the time and like there's the right time and you just have to be like ready. But it's like girls, like it's like you just snap your finger and
Yeah,
we can talk
5
about all of our
minutes in, we're
feelings
talking about
and
everything.
be fine. Guys, it's
There's a
very
few
random.
girls, they're a little hard to crack sometimes.
But I think girls
Yeah,
can also
I mean-
like they can jump out of it too. Like I don't know how Alex can like sometimes just like snap out of like being sad when a kid walks in and be like, "Oh, hey, how's it going?" Like I couldn't do that.
Well, that's just a gift I think she has too, because she's pretty good at like.
I mean,
She's probably been in so much pain, and you would never know it.
my thing is like, I mean, the boys will walk in and I'm crying. I don't stop. I'm the only girl in the house, so I have to just be the
Hero just
emotion
comes
shower.
and like.
Oh, he's the most
hugs
compassionate
you and
baby. He
puts
was
his
just
head
like
on your shoulder.
hugs me. Kingston starts crying if I cry, which is really cute. He cries when anybody cries, and I was like
Yeah,
that
he's
when I was
very
a kid.
emotional.
It's cute.
I was kind of like that too.
Yeah, Ezra actually does too. Though, so,
Yeah,
anyways,
they're all pretty sensitive.
so I gotta keep. I gotta be the emotional one in the house.
You're saying I'm not emotional?
Yeah, I have the opposite
think I'm
problem.
Really?
I have to be the unemotional.
yeah. So you know.
We just need to make David cry. We got
know.
to break him.
It's my
I
mission.
can cry
Ready?
when
I'm
I
gonna
need
break
to.
you.
Actually, that was something I was listening to on a podcast today was why country music, it was like exploring how country music has the ability to write sad songs and make them popular, like sad emotional songs and make people emotional, and other genres don't really have that same effect. Some of them do, but it's not as popular, is because they are specific with their topics and what they're talking about. So it can
My truck broke down.
yeah, well, no, it was
And my dog
more,
died.
more about
A little
like
more specific than that.
divorce and
Yeah. Well, they're pretty vulnerable, I guess. That was Malcolm Gladwell, right?
yeah.
The Malcolm Gladwell revisionist
Ding.
history
Well,
podcast.
I think like gangster rap
Oh, I
is the
definitely
opposite.
recommend it.
Like you have to kind of put out the persona that everything's good and I'm on top of the world.
Yeah. I
Or
don't
else-
know if that's gangster. I think that's more
Well,
hip hop. Yeah.
Sure. I don't know.
Pop music. Everything's
I'm not
fine.
that
you
into
don't
it.
listen to
Sorry.
that, dude, David.
Lucky for you. That's what
Stereotypically, let's say.
That's what I like.
I like. All right. So
Good
I guess
stuff.
we're wrapping up. I don't know
Yeah.
if we covered anything solid tonight.
Hey, well, we
but
talked for an hour, so not too bad.
yeah. Good job, guys.
Good stuff.
Thanks for opening up.
Where's the poop?
Maybe next time.
Thanks for not being vulnerable. I'm kidding. You guys did great. I'm so proud of you. All right. Wrapping up. Thanks for listening, everybody. We will catch you next time.
Or it won't.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye.
Welcome to episode 2 of the Undoing podcast, where we talk about vulnerability and everything that needs to get exposed. Welcome to episode 2 of the Undoing podcast. This week we're talking about vulnerability, so come get some.